Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special. What is this?
Thursday.
Thursday version of the Cone Zone. We're the Cones. Grant and Lowell. Dad, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Iggy. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's nice to have the day off. It's nice to talk to you about the 49ers. So there's a quarterback competition. You haven't seen it. I've been watching it. They don't say it's a quarterback competition, but you hear all of the rave reviews that Trey Lance is getting. And so the first topic we have is Trey Lance putting distance between himself and Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Well, the way I see it, yes, I think just when you watch them, it's nothing against Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a fine quarterback. It's just that this kid does so many things that Jimmy Garoppolo can't and won't. He has a stronger arm. He runs really well. He already seems to understand the offense, and he's only turned the ball over once. His quarterback completion percentage is 72, while Jimmy's is 62. And you hear coaches and players talk about how Trey Lance is special. They can't take their eyes off him. There's not that many quarterbacks in the world that you would say that about. And he's, I think, got the entire organization giddy right now.
Iggy, according to when I watch you, it seems to me that Lance mostly goes against the second string defense and
That's
Jimmy
true.
goes against the first string defense.
That's true.
Why are they doing it like that?
Because they don't want to get Lance. They don't want to fast forward Lance. They want him to earn it. They're trying to make him go through the proper rookie protocol. Also, they want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. And once they start giving Trey Lance first team reps in front of the media, that will really hurt Jimmy Garoppolo's stock because he'll go from looking like a starting quarterback in the NFL to potentially a backup. So I bet you they'll start giving Trey Lance starters reps as soon as they cut off our access. That's my guess.
Okay, but it's still worth noting that he hasn't really gone much against the first team defense, and we haven't seen him yet against another team's defense.
That's true.
So, although, yes, I'm a little more cautious than you. Again, it's easy for me. I'm not down there. But, I also have a bottle of wine riding on this. So I'm saying he's doing great so far, but there's still a lot to go. I
That's
have
true.
a question, though.
Yes.
Let's assume that he's going to be the starter on day one. You win the bet, he's going to be the starter on for the first real season game. What do the Niners do with Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, that's the next question. I think they have to trade him. I don't think they can keep him as a backup. I don't see what good that would do. His trade value's already gone down. It would also be a slap in the face to him, and I think a lot of the players on the team would not like it because even if they can acknowledge that Trey Lance is more gifted than Jimmy Garoppolo, they're all friends with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy seems to be a nice guy. They wouldn't want to see him publicly embarrassed like that. I don't think they can do it.
So they'd have to trade him. Fair enough. So. And they'd get whatever they could get. Yeah. Let's play out this scenario if it's okay. So they trade Jimmy. Trey Lance is the starter. All is happy and well. But now you've got to designate a backup quarterback.
Yes.
So it seems to me that competition is between Rosen and Sudfeld. Who is winning that competition if it were to come to that?
Sudfeld right now.
Why?
It's interesting. They're extremely different. Sudfeld isn't that physically gifted, but you can tell that he really wants to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. He's very on top of the little details, and whatever 3 or 4 throws he gets a day, he makes the most of them. Rosen almost looks depressed. I mean, I'm not diagnosing him. He just looks like his shoulders are down. He doesn't always kind of give his best during a rep. Like if there's pressure, he'll kind of just throw the ball away. He seems like he is a 24-year-old who never wanted to be a backup quarterback in the NFL, wanted to be a starter, saw himself as a star, and can't quite fathom what happened to his life. That's just the way I interpret it because he's playing terribly. And he was terribly. I mean, he'll have throws where he'll one-hop guys or just not even come close. And coming out of UCLA, he was looked at as the best pure thrower in the just arm alone. His arm was great. People compared him to Troy Aikman. It's like, what is going on with you, man? I don't know. I don't know what he needs and if he's not getting it here, but he's now on his 4th team and he still looks like he wants to be somewhere else. I don't know what's going on.
That's a sad story.
Yeah, it is.
That's very interesting. I have one other question about the backups.
Yes.
Let's assume, again, we're going with your scenario. Trade Jimmy, Lance is the starter. since it's important to have a good backup, do you think Shanahan should be giving these two guys more reps?
Absolutely. Yes. Because let's say Trey Lance does really well, starts week 1 or week 2, and the Niners trade Jimmy Garoppolo to do right by him and to clear up a lot of cap space. You got to have a good backup.
Yeah.
Or you got to have a backup who's at least serviceable. Now, from what I've seen from Sudfeld, he looks like a good backup, but it's just been practice. They're going to have to give him more reps. And Rosen over here is looking like he's having a midlife crisis at 24 years old. So I don't know about him either. They definitely need more playing time.
Yeah.
But let me just to be clear, the first game isn't for another 5 weeks. So they do have time. And just because these guys haven't gotten a lot of reps in the first week of camp doesn't mean that the Niners are messing up. But this is a conversation they need to be having today.
I got it.
Yeah.
It could change, especially when the access is cut off in a week and a half, Iggy?
That's right. Yeah, they have 6 more practices in front of the media in Santa Clara, and then we're done. They'll have 2 more practices with the Chargers in front of media, and then that's that. So they can have like 3-4 weeks to do whatever they want to do in private.
Are you going to go down?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't miss it.
I love
Quarterback
it.
competition.
I mean, in a way, the practices are more important than the game.
I'm not going to go to the game. I'm going to go over the practices, come home, cover the game on television. I think you would do the same if you could.
I love it. I love it. I got it.
Yeah. So it's so far Sudfeld's winning the competition. Rosen has the talent to beat out Sudfeld, but you know what I mean? Like you can tell Sudfeld wants to be the backup quarterback. And I can't tell that Rosen wants that life.
Right. And in fact, he feels he can't be the starter. Clearly, there are 2 people in front of him, and he's sort of lost heart.
Yeah. What am I doing here? Can I go someplace where I have like a path to play? He knows he has no path to play. He sees Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance is going to be the quarterback here for a while until something changes.
Right.
So it just seems like Rosen doesn't have his heart in it. Maybe he never has. I didn't see him in his last couple of stops, but right now you see Sudfeld wants this. And I think he's looking at Rosen like, I'm better than him. I got this. So at least I got Sudfeld.
Another question, and if I'm going out of order, because
go ahead. Go ahead.
This week, Adam Schefter quoted John Lynch saying that Jimmy is having the best camp ever. Now, I know you've talked about this on other broadcasts, and I know that you feel he's not having the best camp ever. He's having a typical Jimmy camp where he does some good things. He's very limited, doesn't throw down the field, doesn't read,
his ball over,
reads quickly enough, all of that. So he's having, a rather mediocre to not so mediocre camp.
Standard Jimmy.
Why would Lynch say that?
He has to. He's trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, and all the press is about Trey Lance. And I think most people assume when you're praising one guy, you're saying the other guy isn't as good. And Lynch is trying to do the best he can. I mean, if you and I were running the 49ers and we were privately having a meeting, we would say we have to say the nicest things possible about Jimmy Garoppolo and maybe even lie to try to, because they think probably they could get like a 3rd round pick for him right now. They want to get a 1st or a 2nd. They have to create this perception. And the thing that's funny is, okay, so John Lynch did the right thing. Adam, why would you just run with that? You know that's propaganda. Come to practice. Ask me. I'll tell you. Or ask anyone.
Yeah. Yes. From my point of view, Adam is so good at what he does.
Yeah.
He's so bright. Lynch tells you that. Make a phone call.
Yeah.
This is what John told me off the record. Grant, what do you think? I can't go down there. I have all these other teams to cover. I'm sorry. Look,
I could have called Nick Wagner. They work for the same employer. I'm sure they have each other's number. I'm sure they could text him. Nick's there with me. He would have told him, no, Adam, no.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to seem like we're knocking at him. He's terrific.
Yeah.
I only have admiration for him. I wish he hadn't done that. Because
Go ahead.
Let me finish, sweetie.
Go ahead.
Sweetie. Let me finish. I tried before I retired, never to do propaganda. Right. And again, I'm going to say this, if you're trying this at home or if you're a novice journalist, it's not what they want you to hear and see. It's what you really hear and see. I tried never to go with their narrative, the team's storyline, because a lot of the times it was propaganda. Lowell, what did you really see? And do you care that you're going to contradict them? Not only don't I care, I love it.
Right. Like John Lynch's job is to do what's best for the organization. And right now that's, lie about Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, fib a little bit. It's not, it's what I would do too. He has to do that. But our job is to understand what a pump and dump when we see one. And
I love pump and dump.
This is a pump and dump. I don't know how much pumping they've actually accomplished. I don't know. It seems like everyone's talking about Trey Lance and everyone realizes that Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know. Here's the thing. I got some stats. He has 3 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions in 7 days of camp. That's Jimmy. But he'll have some throws throughout the day. You'd be like, well, that was really nice. That was really good. You can appreciate him. But yeah, saying he's had the best camp ever. No, he's still the same. Some people like him.
I got one more quarterback question, unless there's some I forgot about. I got one more.
Sure.
You're down there. You're very impressed with Trey Lance, and a lot of people are ooh-ahing about him. Does that mean you're convinced he's going to be a big hit this season in the NFL?
I think he's going to be really good this year. I don't know that he's going to have he's going to be, I don't know what he's going to be like when he's 30, but this is what I see from him. I think he's going to have a lot of the early success that Lamar Jackson's had. I think he's going to run for like 800 yards this year. I think he's going to score like 10 rushing touchdowns. And then on top of that, he is a much better thrower than I expected. He has good throwing mechanics, strong arm, careful with the ball. I think he's going to have really good numbers because he's so gifted and there's a really good team around him. He'll have Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, this offensive, Trent Williams, Mostert. I think he's going to have a really good year. The question is, will he get hurt playing the way he plays? If he's going to run for 800 yards, will he get hurt? And can he do it for 2-3 years? And will he eventually evolve into a quarterback who's more like Russell Wilson? I think he can, but we'll see. But early on, I think their offense is going to be a lot like Baltimore's, and they're going to kind of out Baltimore. And I know you're not wild about that style of offense, but it's what they got.
Okay. You say the big question is, will he get hurt? Of course, it's a big question.
Yes.
Iggy, the big question is, will he be able to translate what he's doing in training camp into real games? And we certainly do not know the answer yet. We don't know the answer. Now, you're down there and you are really impressed and you're thinking, I think he will, right?
Yeah.
One, I'm not down there. 2, I've been through this a lot of times. I want to see it.
Of course. I guess the reason I'm so enthusiastic is because it's every day that I see it. It's not like 2 of the 7 days. It's every day. That's very impressive. I mean, Jimmy isn't that consistent. So I don't know if he's going to be, the rookie of the year, but I think he'll be one of the better players on the 49ers this year. I do. I mean, because that's what he is every day down there in camp.
Do you think he's physically gifted at the level of Mahomes?
Yes. In certain ways, more physically gifted than Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes can't run like him, and his arm strength is right there with Mahomes. He has the same level of arm strength as Mahomes. Now, Mahomes in college played in the Big 12 and had games where he would throw 50, 60 times. So he was very, had a lot of passing experience. This guy, not as much. He's going to run more than Mahomes ever did, and he'll develop into a passer. But so much of passing is understanding situations. Like clock time, score, down and distance. He's never led a 2-minute drill in his life, Trey Lance. So I think he's going to have to develop into the kind of guy who can win games throwing 45 passes. But right now, what he's going to do is throw maybe 20 times a game and run maybe 8 or 9. That should be a pretty good combination when you add in the rest of the Niners running game and who he's throwing to.
When he's throwing passes in practice, do you find you can't take your eyes off him?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I keep comparing him to, watching Kaepernick. And Kaepernick was a lot of fun to watch too. Kaepernick was a supreme athlete. But Kaepernick never took pride in his mechanics. He would even say, like, I'm not big on mechanics. This kid is big on mechanics. He works on them very hard. And of these mobile quarterbacks, he has one of the better throwing motions I've seen. I would compare it to Russell Wilson. He's got that over the top, not elongated throwing motion. It's really impressive, and I wasn't expecting it.
And Kaepernick had an elongated motion.
Yeah, he bring it all the way back. He looked
like a pitcher. You got to get it out fast.
You got to get it out fast. And Trey Lance doesn't get it out as fast as Jimmy Garoppolo, but Garoppolo gets it out so fast, and there's really very little on the throw because he's just flicking it. Trey Lance gets it out fast, but he gets his whole body behind it, and you can see him grunt. Every time he throws a 15-yard pass over the middle, it's shocking how hard he throws the ball. He has the Colin Kaepernick arm strength, with a much more efficient, repeatable release.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from what they say, he's obsessed with learning defenses, learning the playbook, like the position, not just being a great athlete, which is another thing that Colin Kaepernick didn't have. I mean, everything I've heard about him so far, he seems very mature, poised. I haven't seen anything yet where it's like, well, this one thing right here could really undermine him. I think he could be Mahomes special. Just maybe he'll have to develop into that because he didn't throw that much in college. That's the one thing I got to remember about him.
He sounds like a coach's dream.
I think he's a coach's dream. And they're trying not to praise him too much, but they all look so happy right now when they go to the podium because this guy could potentially make all their careers.
Got it. Got it.
You know, I mean, Kyle Shanahan was going great coaching Jimmy Garoppolo. No offense to Jimmy, but Bill Walsh was always talking about the limit of his offense. Well, we know the limit that Jimmy has, and Kyle's worked very hard to get right up to that. And now it's like, boom, forget that. You can do whatever you want. Whatever you want. It's exciting.
Have we asked all our quarterback questions?
Yes, we have some questions from the viewers. Let's take them. Jerry says, do you think they won't trade Jimmy even if Lance starts just in case he gets hurt like RG3? Then it's season over if Jimmy is gone. Great show, guys. That's a good point. Remember, he's going to run Trey Lance a ton. He did that with RG3. RG3 eventually got hurt. Now, RG3 was smaller than Trey Lance. Do you think they keep Jimmy Garoppolo just in case?
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not talking to anybody anymore.
Right.
I think if they designate Lance as the starter, they have to trade Jimmy. I think it would there would be tension in the locker room, a Jimmy group and a Trey group. And Jimmy would, you say Rosen looks defeated?
Yeah.
Jimmy would be crushed.
Yeah.
He would be crushed. And if the other guy got hurt and they had to bring Jimmy back, I think the team already would have lost him. They would have lost him. So yeah. I feel they have to trade him if he's not the starter.
I got something else to say. I think, when they do eventually make Trey Lance the starting quarterback, they might want to get a backup quarterback who has something in common with Lance in terms of the skill set. I mean, Lance is going to be running a lot. Wouldn't you want a backup who could do some of that stuff too, as opposed to Nate Sudfeld, who's not that kind of quarterback? I'm just saying they might need some new backup quarterbacks next year too.
Interesting.
Brandon says, I think we should use the obscurity around Lance as a competitive advantage. Introduce a new package for Lance each week that there's no film. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to do that. There's going to be a lot of time. Yeah.
Great idea.
Yes. Jonathan says, did you guys see the Forbes article? Niners lost at least $45 million last year. Give Jed credit for spending big this offseason. Most owners wouldn't. Most owners spend up to the salary cap on players. That's great, but there are no like Oakland A's teams where they're just spending $35 million on players in the NFL. Every owner spends on players. I think where my dad and I judge Jed on his generosity is all the things that aren't under the salary cap. The stadium, amenities, coaches, all those other things. And I feel like those things, from what I've heard, are kind of bare bones. So sorry they lost $45 million though. Any more? I think there's one more, and then we'll move on. Oh, two more. Paul says, saw this on Lance and had to share. Big fan of you both. If Grant likes a player, there must be something there. He usually doesn't like anyone. Thanks, Paul. I didn't expect to like Lance as much. Michael says, why are you pushing for Trey to start so aggressively? That'll mean Jimmy is gone, and if Trey gets hurt, we're left with Rose and Sudfeld. Disaster. Well, you see, Michael, my dad and I made a bet, and I really want to win, and I'm trying to leverage all of my influence to win this $50 bet, and I think it's kind of cheating in a way. Sorry, Dad.
Now, it's not a $50 bet. It's a $50 bottle of wine.
Good point. Which is even better.
Yeah.
RMJ Motoring says, wifey and I have our Trey Lance jersey ready 3 weeks ago. We have been on the Trey train from day one. You and your pops are the best. Thank you very much, RMJ Motoring. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Last one. Should Kyle go get RG3 to mentor Trey and cut Jimmy?
No. Look, poor RG3. I'm a boxing guy, and there's a term for a guy who used to be good but is no good anymore, and you call him a shot fighter.
Yes.
Shot, S-H-O-T. Tyson eventually became a shot fighter. RG3.
Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, boy, did he.
Yeah.
Last jaw and everything. Whew. I agree, Iggy. Yeah. Oh, what a way to end your career. Yeah. And I would say RG3, God love him, is a shot quarterback. Would you agree?
Yeah. When I see him play, it's like, I don't Yeah, he needs to stop. He hasn't been able to move in a long time, and he never
Yeah.
really was a great quarterback. Aaron says, "Is there any chance Jimmy would restructure and stay as the backup?" No. Everyone needs a fresh start. He needs to leave. He
Yeah.
would probably be a happier person if he left.
And
Josh says,
I
"Oh,
just
sorry. Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
want to say something.
Go ahead."
Why would he restructure? Why does
Yeah.
he owe that to the 49ers?
Mm-mm.
He wants to make as much money as he can. So I'll do you a favor so you can screw me. I don't see it.
I love how fans think that way, though.
Yeah.
You gotta love that. Josh says, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate Lance's and Jimmy's football intelligence from what you've seen so far, and why? Great show, guys. I've never really. I would say that Jimmy's is like a 7, and I don't want to get ahead of myself with Lance, but I would say that he's part of what's so intriguing about him is it seems like his football intelligence is very high, like a 9. So we'll see. We'll see what he does in a 2-minute drill when when the pressure's on. He might make some JV mistakes the way that Jimmy Garoppolo does sometimes. So far he looks like he's picked up the offense faster than Jimmy ever did. All right, let's move on. Next topic. Nick Bosa's knee.
Yeah, let's put it in context. The big topic is the quarterback competition. The second big topic is Bosa's knee. There's no question about it. So Iggy, let's just please say again what now. One day after 2 or 3 days of practice last week, they gave him a maintenance day.
Yeah.
Fine, they gave him a maintenance day, but now it seems they've given a lot of maintenance days. So tell us, what is a maintenance day and how many has he had?
A maintenance day is a day where he just doesn't show up, or he's not there practicing suited. He's basically not there. He might be inside or at home or I don't know what. And the idea is do nothing, rest and recover. Fine. He's done 2 of those. So 7 days, 2 he wasn't there. The other 5 days he was there in pads, stretching, warming up with the defensive linemen, going against those little dummies that look kind of like players with their hands out, working on pass rush moves. But then when it's time to like actually hit people in one-on-one pass rush drills or 11-on-11 scrimmage, he doesn't do that. Fine, he's less than 12 months removed from a torn ACL. That was like mid-September, so he's about 11 months removed from that. Okay, they're being very cautious with him. Eventually, though, they're going to need him to practice, right? I would think.
Even D Ford is practicing.
Yeah, D Ford has missed 0 games. He has 0 maintenance days, and each day he does a little bit more. He started off doing the Bosa thing where you just kind of warm up but don't compete. And in the last 3 or 4 days, he's been in there in 11-on-11s, and each day a little bit more, going full bore. And I guess it's, if you don't have any setbacks, they give you a little more. With Bosa, he came out last week and said, I'm making my way back, and there is some soreness sometimes. We're trying to manage that. Seems to, you call it what you want to call it, but he plays a little bit, feels a little soreness, they dial it back. D Ford, it seems like he plays, everything's okay, they give him more.
Do you find, if you were an executive at the Niners, would you find what they need to do with Bosa at this point troubling?
Borderline, yeah. I think we're getting there. I think it's fair for the Niners to say, we're going to go really light on Bosa in training camp this year because he's less than 12 months removed from this serious surgery. But the expectation is by September, he's going to be a full participant in practices, doing everything that everyone else is doing. If he can't get back to that level and the Niners have to basically say, Bosa doesn't practice anymore, he's good, we're just going to have him in games, that's a problem, because do you want to invest a second contract in that?
Right. And if he doesn't practice, it's a very bad look for the other players.
Absolutely. That's supposed to be one of your best players, one of your leaders on the team, and he's not practicing. Now, I think it's fair for him not to practice the first week, but week 2, I think he should be practicing. Do something.
And Iggy, after this period, you won't know if he's practicing or not.
That's right. That's right.
You'll never know unless some coach tells somebody off the record.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So what my feeling is, I understand why they're not being cautious with him. They're being hyper cautious.
Hyper cautious.
And I understand he's so valuable to them. But the fact that they're doing this the second week, not letting him really be in any of the team drills, let me just say it caught my attention. What it means, I don't know. Hey, Iggy, I want to say something.
Sure.
It seems like you're freezing up a little.
Yeah, I think it's better now, though.
It
I think
is?
it's better now. Yeah, it just had a little momentary glitch. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. I have another question.
Yes.
And this, again, is how I think as a journalist. Have they brought him out to speak to the media in the auditorium?
Once. It was a week ago after a couple of practices, and that's when he said that he's still having a little soreness, but he's working back and he's encouraged. Since then, a lot has changed, and he hasn't. But he's talked once.
He hasn't talked again. You would say because then he'd have to answer a whole bunch of questions about his knee.
Well, since he talked, he's had 2 maintenance days. He's probably still hasn't gotten vaccinated, and a report came out that his new girlfriend wrote a bunch of racist tweets a few years ago where she used the N-word, and he would have to answer about that too. I'm sure he has to answer that right now amongst his teammates. So he's got a lot to talk about.
You know, Iggy, I had not heard. I don't follow their social lives,
Right.
And you know, except when I'm on with you, I'm not reading about Bosa all the time. So there is his current girlfriend. People, when they're younger, do such crazy things.
Yeah, it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. So that
Bad
would be
luck.
so if he went into a press conference, he'd be on the defensive the whole time.
Oh yeah, it would be like, well, first of all, have you gotten the vaccine yet? No. Okay. Did you see what your girlfriend tweeted? What's your take? What's your response? What are you gonna do?
And what's really going on with the knee?
What's really going on with your knee? Yeah, those are the only questions he wants. He doesn't want any part of that.
He'd be like a hockey goalie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
So look, if I were him, I wouldn't want to talk to the media either.
No.
But you know, it's very interesting. Here is a guy fans love because fans love their heroes.
Yes.
But I wonder what's going on with him in the locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were a player, I would be either thinking, sure, give him all the time he wants. He's Nick Bosa. Or I'd be thinking, I'm working my ass off. What's with this guy? And by the way, why didn't he get vaccinated? And what about his girlfriend? Why would he get a girlfriend like that?
Yeah. Why does a guy like this get every special circumstance dispensed? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, look, I've never met Nick Bosa. He may be I'm sure he's a very nice man, but he's in a pretty ticklish situation in at least 3 ways right now.
I don't know if he's a really nice man. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, why did I say that?
I don't know.
That was stupid. I take it back.
All right.
Iggy, you're a very nice man.
Thank you. So are you.
You're right. You just straightened me out.
That's all right. Jerome says, I can't wait to catch Grant on Locked On 49ers with Brian Peacock and Aaron Crocker. Yeah, that's today at 4 o'clock. I don't know if it's live or not, but yeah, thank you. Camelot's Red and Gold says, unrelated to Niners, but do you guys have any thoughts on why so many executives are leaving the Raiders? Sounds like some shady business they're avoiding. I've been in Niner world. Have you noticed this?
There are 2 top executives left.
Oh.
And I think 4 players have left.
Wow.
Here's what I want to say. Again, I'm not with them anymore, but there is something going on in their administration.
Yeah.
And it may be that Mark Davis is not getting along with his people. Well, apparently he's not. I mean, it seems like he's not. Now, what would they not be getting along about? Of all the franchises, they have, I think, the least ready cash. And there may be real business issues there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're cash poor, right? They never have anything. They have no liquidity.
They're not like the Niners. They're cash poor.
Yeah. Isaac says, who's leading the 3rd string receiver position? Travis Benjamin, Richie James.
We're going to come back to that.
We're going to come back to that. We have an entire topic. You predicted it. Randy says, we have to take advantage of Lance rookie contract all 5 years. Why waste a year paying Jimmy? That's what I think. But and I think that's what the Niners will understand too. But we'll see what they do. I don't think you spend all that money on 2 quarterbacks, but it could be done. Jeffrey says, how does Arden Key look? He's been with the starters at DN because Bosa's not there. Ebukam's not there. He looks pretty good so far. Good question. I like him. Number 98. One more. Hold on. 2 more. Joseph says, hey, Grant, love the show. You're the best. Do you think Bosa teammates might be turning against him because of what his girlfriend said? I don't know. I mean, I would imagine some of them came up to him. They're like, "Hey, man, what's that about?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? Fair question. You're my teammate. Are you going to say something?
Yeah.
Do you condone those statements? How are the RC corners doing? The rookie corners. We're going to talk about that too. We're going to come to that too. Let's get right into it. Let's go to running backs first, though.
Okay. When we plan at 9 a.m.
Yes.
And so when we planned our stuff, I said, how about these three after we do the really sexy topics? Let's, you, Iggy, rank the running backs, rank the wide receivers, and talk about what's going on at cornerback.
Sure.
So, Iggy, why don't you give your rankings and reasons on the running backs?
Okay. Let's start with, I'll start with the running backs. The best running back on the team is Raheem Mostert still. He was hurt last year. They're going to ask him to run less this year. There's a lot of running backs on the team, but he is outstanding at his primary job, which is running the ball. He's always going to average 5 yards a carry. Why is he so good? Because he has great vision. He spots the hole. He's extremely decisive. You never see him hesitate in the backfield and kind of dance or slow down. He always has a great feel. He hits it unexpectedly quickly, and then he's at his top speed very fast, and then he's the fastest player on the team. And he's really strong.
What would you think would be the correct amount of touches as a runner you would give him in a game?
I think in the regular season, as little as possible. So maybe 10 to 12. And then in the playoffs, as much as you need, because he's great. So in the playoffs, if he's healthy, they gave him 20 something that one time in the NFC Championship game. Great. That was smart. But you don't want to wear him out in September because he's 196 pounds or something like that. Yeah.
Who comes next?
Before we move on, I just want to say he's also a hell of a receiver too. Okay. Who comes next? The rookie, 3rd round pick, Trey Sermon. I haven't seen him in a preseason game yet. I haven't seen anyone tackle him yet. I've watched him in college. He's getting a lot of reps with the starters. He's going to be the number 2 running back this year, sort of taking over for Tevin Coleman. He's way bigger than Tevin Coleman. He's like 6 feet, 215 pounds. He's got a very low center of gravity despite being an upright runner. And he always kind of lands on his feet. He's very powerful, and he's a good receiver too. I like him a lot. He's not as fast. He's not particularly fast. He's more like Frank Gore speed, but he's big, and they haven't had anyone like that in years. I like him. Trey Sermon, number 2.
So he would divide time with Mostert?
Yes, absolutely. And he's totally different than Mostert. The last few years, they've had a lot of running backs who are kind of the same. Mostert and Breida were very similar. Basically, guys who weighed 200 pounds and ran very fast. Sermon is not like that at all. He's a change of pace from what the Niners normally do. Great. Good compliment to Mostert. Okay, then number 3 is another rookie. Their 6th round pick, Elijah Mitchell. He went to a small school. I think it's called the University of Louisiana. There wasn't much tape. I hadn't seen much of him. He's very fast, like Mostert, but he's also really good at running between the tackles. He has a lot of long runs in camp. He hasn't been playing with the starters like Sermon, but it looks like he's 3rd on the depth chart and someone who could be really good too. I like him a lot. Elijah Mitchell, number 3.
Do you think that they have a good running back core?
I do. Running back is the position where rookies can really excel right away. There's no difference between playing running back in college and the NFL. It's very similar. It's very simple. If you can find the hole and run through it and break tackles, you're a good running back. And these guys haven't gotten, all the big hits and gotten worn down yet. So I think it's much better at running back than they were last year. One of the problems was they had a bunch of injuries there, and they had to play Jerick McKinnon all season, and that was no good. So they've got 2 rookies that were good, and they have more guys. So number 4 would be a guy, Wayne Gallman, who was starting a bunch of games for the Giants last year. He's their 4th running back, and he's solid. He's solid.
What do you mean by solid?
He averaged 4.6 yards per carry last year. He's a decent receiver. He's a decent blocker. I mean, you don't want him to be your starting running back, but he was a very good number 2 who filled in as a number 1 last year. And on the Niners, he's number 4. He's experienced. He's about 26 years old. He's a solid running back who could fill in as a starter if necessary. On the Niners, he's someone that's just depth.
How many will they carry?
Probably 4. They also have Jeff Wilson Jr., who's injured, and he'll come back midseason. And by then, one of these guys will be hurt, or they'll get rid of Gallman and bring back Wilson.
Got it.
Wilson's a hell of a player too. Wilson is the most violent rusher that on the team. He hits people. I asked offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel about running backs yesterday, how you judge them in practice when there's no tackling. And he says, I look at their body position at the point of contact. We tell running backs to strike. You want to be in a position to strike with your shoulder. And so the best example of that is Jeff Wilson Jr. And I think you've probably seen it if you remember. He really hits people when he runs.
The coach gave you a hell of a good answer.
Hell of a good answer. Yeah. He's a hell of a good answerer. I like that he's the new offensive coordinator. I like him. He's like Kyle Shanahan with all the insights plus and none of the red ass. None of it. You can just talk to him and he'll give you great answers.
That was a wonderful answer.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get to the wide receivers in a second. There's a couple of questions we had. Dylan says, hey guys, love the show. Do you think Kyle's going to throw everything at the Chiefs in the first preseason game, try to embarrass them as payback? Ooh, no. It's going to be Vanilla City. They're going to try to get Jimmy Garoppolo 10 completions so they can trade him, 10 very quick throws so he doesn't get hurt. That's what I'm thinking. Brian Wood says,
wait, I'd like to answer that question.
Go ahead.
I understand why you would ask the question, but it's a fan question, not a football question. In football is a business. You get even by beating a team in the regular season. You couldn't care less about the preseason. You just want to get out alive.
That's right. That's right. Someone in here asked, what about JaMychal Hasty? He would be last on the depth chart right now. I like JaMychal Hasty, but they could cut him and put him on the practice squad and no one would probably pick him up. So he'll be around. Remember, Jeff Wilson Jr., the Niners cut him like 2 or 3 times. He would never make the 53-man roster. You and I would always be like, how could they possibly cut? Right. And then no one would pick him up because he was an undrafted running back. I guess people felt, well, they're a dime a dozen, even though he's good. So Hasty will probably stick around. I don't think he'll make the team. Good question. Brian says, if Trey is ready now, Grant, I just want your take on who gives the team the best chance at a deep playoff run or possible Super Bowl. Right, Trey? I think it's the kid. I know it's kind of crazy to say that a young guy gives them the best chance, but it's a sport and he's just so gifted. When you guys see him for yourself, I think you'll know. I don't want to sell you guys on Trey. You'll see him for yourself in like a week and a half, and we'll talk then. See what you feel. All right, let's do the wide receivers. Ranking the wide receivers. I gotta go with Brandon Ayuk number 1. It's very close between the 2 top guys, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. They're very good. They both do their own things very well. Brandon Ayuk is leading all players in camp with 22 catches, and no one else has more than 17. He is the guy, the go-to guy on this team right now. Not Kittle. They're almost giving Kittle the Bosa treatment. Like he's out there, but not really out there. Ayuk is the one that gets like 4 or 5 catches every day. And what's interesting about him, he doesn't really have to be open to catch the ball. He's 6 feet tall, but he has the wingspan of a 6'4" guy. And he makes these catches. It's like, how did he do that? It's like go gadget, Inspector Gadget. So Ayuk is number 1. Deebo Samuel's number 2, but like the difference is like this Deebo Samuel's faster than Brandon Ayuk. He's stronger than Brandon Ayuk. He's better after the catch than Brandon Ayuk. He just has it gets hurt more than Ayuk, I guess. He has a groin tightness, missed a practice, hasn't done much the last couple of days. Also has very short arms, which gives him he can't do what Ayuk can do. He has to be open. Ayuk doesn't always have to be open. So if he's not, and it's a contest between him and the corner might break that ball up. So I would have to say Ayuk, but just by the slimmest of margins. You see them both play though. Number 3 is Mohamed Sanu, the veteran. He's having a good camp. He has 17 catches, which is 2 more than Deebo. When he catches the ball, it's like a slant or a quick out. It's like 8 yards. That's what he'll make an 8-yard catch, maybe a 9-yard catch. It's not really exciting, but that's the kind of stuff that Kendrick Bourne used to do for the 49ers. So he's filling that role. Then after that is a guy, number 4, named Trent Sherfield, who wasn't on this team last year. He was on Arizona. The Niners signed him as like a special teams guy, a gunner, the guy who runs down on punt coverage and tackles the returner. But he has 14 catches in camp, twice as many as Kittle. They throw to him a lot. He's in great shape. He's one of these like 25-year-old undrafted guys who's extremely professional and has, been in the league for 3 years and is not going to mess around. He's the, sometimes they practice in shorts very, very casually. He always practices in the football pants. He's very serious and he's in great shape. He looks like he's going to make the team. So it's interesting to see. He's like the new Raheem Mostert, the special teams guy who's going to make a name for himself on offense. And then after him is a guy named Kevin White, who you may not have heard of, but he was a top 5 pick in 2014, and he's had a million injuries and never really worked out, kind of like Jason Verrett. But the Niners had him for 2 years, and he's big and fast, and he's playing pretty well. He might make the team as number 5, and then number 6 would be Richie James Jr., who we've liked, but he has like 4 catches in camp. I don't know if he's going to make the team. Right now, he's hanging on by a thread. That's my ranking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. What is Ayuk like?
Ooh, Ayuk is he seems shy. He seems very smart. He went to Arizona State. He's from, I want to say Reno or something like that. He's from out here. He's shy. He seems to be very, very professional. Like they basically drafted him because Dante Pettis didn't work out. And Dante Pettis never really looked like he lifted weights the way they wanted him to. Like he really embraced being a football player. He was built like a soccer player. Brandon Ayuk is really strong. He looks like he's one of the hardest working players on the team. Like he is like Kittle's like that, Warner's like that, Trey Lance is like that, Bosa's like that. Gym rats. He looks like a gym rat.
Okay, what is Debo like?
Debo is really verbal. He's a natural leader. He's smart, funny. He's a great interview. I would imagine, is the leader of that group, although he's pretty young. Mohamed Sanu was like the elder statesman of the group, but Debo is the alpha of that group. Ayuk is more of the natural number 2 personality, even though he gets more catches, I would say. Debo has a wicked smile. I like Debo. He's a lot of fun.
You mean irony? He has irony?
Yes. And he has the twinkle in his eye that Joe Staley had, you know?
Yeah.
He's
okay.
A lot of fun.
Should we move to corner?
Yes, let's move to corner. We have a $10 donation. We have a couple. Hold on. Hey, Grant, this is my favorite podcast with your dad. Out of all of them, you and your dad are a dynamic duo and both seem nice and genuine. I'm nice and genuine. I can't speak for my dad. We are a dynamic duo. Thank you very much. There's 2 more. Hold on. Thank you so much for all the donations, guys. Really, really generous of you. Killer Cam says, Lowell, get that bottle of wine ready. Going to be the best bet you've ever lost. Great work, guys. Thank you, Cam.
I'll be happy to lose it.
Me too. I will too. It'll be funny if Jimmy Garoppolo starts week 1 and Lance starts week 2 and I lose. Could happen. I'm J Rico 85 says, yesterday you talked about Dwelly being a great third receiver, and I agree. I also think Juice is going to get used more, and we've seen Juice in the slot. We don't need a third receiver with Juice and Dwelly. Well, but between Ayuk, Debo, Sanu, Kittle, Dwelly, Mostert, Juszczyk, that's a pretty good team. They just need a good offensive line and a good quarterback. Thanks, J Rico. Last one. Vince says, father and son for interviews. How far ahead are you guys writing and brainstorming questions? 2 hours.
2 hours.
Hour and a half.
Now, I'd like to answer why. You have to understand that Grant is really busy. He's down there and working 15 hours a day during this time of year and loving it. Yes. I don't even call him. I'm afraid to phone him because either it goes to his voicemail or he gets on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I called you on the drive down yesterday. You were so happy. I was happy.
You called me. I was so excited. You know, I'm going to tell the story. It's just terrible. One time when he was at UCLA, did I ever tell you this? He was at UCLA and he was supposed to go home after vacation on a Thursday. And I'm sitting on the back deck reading the paper, having coffee in the morning. He comes out and says, Dad, I'm going to go back today on Wednesday. And I start to cry.
I'm sorry. I was being a jerk. I was 20. I was only thinking about myself. I'm sorry, Dad.
I was being a jerk too. But anyway, let's get to the corners.
All right, let's get to the corners. That's funny. What's going on at cornerback? Okay, let's say here's what happened. Let's start it from the beginning. So the Niners have Jason Verrett. They re-signed him. He's fantastic. He's the best corner I've ever seen on this team since I've been covering. He's great. Outside of him, they're a little murky what they wanted to do. They let Richard Sherman go, fine. They let Ahkello Witherspoon go, fine. He was pretty bad on the Niners. Only thing is the Seahawks signed him, and Pete Carroll is the best working with corners, and we'll see what happens. They might regret that one. So they let Ahkello Witherspoon go to a division rival. They signed Emmanuel Mosley. Who you've seen Emmanuel Mosley. He's solid. He's decent. He has COVID, and so he's missed all of training camp. And without him, first 4 days, they had a guy named Tim Harris Jr. starting them. They already cut him. He's off the team. The last 2 days, they've had a guy named Ken Webster there. I don't even know who that is. He might get cut too. So right now, they're just kind of waiting for Mosley to come back. And if anything were to ever happen to Mosley, if Mosley and Verrett don't start 17 games each, the Niners have a big problem. They're this close to being in that situation last year against Miami where they had that guy named Brian Allen starting at cornerback.
Well, here's my opinion of that. They've planned so well all over the place. Cornerback is really important. And if you have a weak corner, a good quarterback can kill you.
You. A good quarterback all of a sudden can become a great quarterback, like when Ryan Fitzpatrick transformed in front of our eyes into Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how a team that plans so well could be so short-sighted at cornerback.
Well, here was the plan. They drafted two. They drafted Ambry Thomas in round 3, the end of round 3, and they drafted Diamador Lenore in round 5. That's not good enough. 2 rookies who were taken rather late. I mean, Ambry Thomas was taken after the 100th pick. Corner is a premium position. If you're 6 feet tall and you can cover really good wide receivers, you're a first-round pick. And if you don't get a guy there, you're kind of rolling the dice. They could have gotten someone in free agency, but instead they wanted to get insurance on the D-line because D Ford was coming back from a weird injury. They signed Samson Ebukam. Well, D Ford's there. They really should have spent that money in the secondary, and they're limited with the money they can spend on depth because they're spending $27 million on a quarterback. If he ever were to leave, they would have some money and they could spend it. But it's like, who's available at this point?
Iggy, the 2 rookie corners, are they good?
They don't play with the starters. I haven't noticed anything particularly special about either one of them yet. No, but they've been on the team for a week. I'm not going to write them off, but they don't look like either one's going to be starting week 1 and playing well. I would be shocked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, Iggy and I have talked about this philosophy of defense.
Yes.
Shanahan has a philosophy of defense. You build up your D-line, you rush the quarterback and all that. Absolutely, of course. But since it's now such a passing league, and it's hard to get to a quarterback, and if you breathe on him, there's a penalty. So I'd say corner is such an important position. And I just, it amazes me, Iggy.
If you don't have good cornerbacks who can cover man-to-man, then you have to play zone all the time. And if you play zone all the time and your pass rush isn't like 7 deep with great rushers, great guys on the bench, a great quarterback's going to dice you up eventually. By the 4th quarter, you're going to see that you've given up 30 points and your defense. You can't. You have to be able to play man-to-man so you can blitz at the right times. And I don't think the Niners can do that just yet. Even if Mosley comes back, how good is Mosley? Teams are going to be going after. He's going to get targeted a lot because Verrett's so good. He's going to get 7-8 targets a game. How's he going to hold up?
Iggy, as far as Mosley and COVID, have they told how close he is to coming back? Is he deathly ill? Is he just a little ill?
I think he's okay. They haven't said anything like that. I was expecting he'd be back yesterday. It's been a week. I don't know how long that is. It a week? Is it 2 weeks? I don't know. I'll find out. Okay. But he needs to be back now.
But that's certainly an issue that somebody should ask somebody about.
Certainly, yeah. So that's the Niners' situation at cornerback. It seems like they're one injury away from Mosley or Verrett to being in a position where it doesn't matter who their quarterback is. That's bad. Even Trey Lance would be at a disadvantage with some guy off the bus at corner. So they got some time to figure it out. They can make a trade, but I think this is basically the price of keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster.
Okay, so I would say from my point of view, there are 2 potential red flags.
Yes.
I'm not even going to call them red flags.
Yes.
Potential, because it's so early, potential red flags on that roster, cornerback and offensive line.
Yes, that's a good point. Let's say this, though. If they find some depth at cornerback within the next couple of months, if D Ford continues his trajectory and is a factor this year, if Nick Bosa comes back and Trey Lance continues to play the way he does in camp, this team can win it all.
No question.
This team can win it all. Yeah.
I have long said that they are the best team in their division and they could go all the way. Iggy, this is lining up as a potentially thrilling season.
thrilling. It's been thrilling since they made the trade in, what was that, February? And this training camp has been the most thrilling of my career. Like, by this point, I'm a little tired of training camp. You go down, you watch Alex Smith or Jimmy Garoppolo or throw 10-yard passes all day, every day, maybe a 15-yarder. I'm like, okay, that's I can appreciate that. But here it's like, wow, what am I going to see today? And I think that's how everyone feels. It's a lot of fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So good for the 49ers. Thank you for providing us entertainment. Thank you, everyone, for watching us today. It's a lot of fun to do an off-day show with you, Dad.
Love you, son.
Love you too, Dad. I'll call you right after this.
Okay.
I'll be back in an hour with Sibila if you guys want to see more of my face. See you at 1 o'clock.